Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this brand new channel. This is the very first episode from the Crypto Pulse. I'm really excited. I've got a lot to cover here today, but before we begin, let me answer the question, why another crypto channel? So I've been in crypto since 2012, and as the space has been evolving over the years, I found that what really excites me the most are the kinds of projects and cryptocurrencies that are standing to potentially really change our lives in some way and reach the mainstream. There are hundreds of cryptocurrency coins and projects out there, but not very many of them, other than Bitcoin, really stand to make a big difference that I personally feel are building sufficient momentum to put them on a trajectory towards adoption where the mainstream will eventually recognize their potential. We all know that Bitcoin is the king, and mainstream is finally beginning to understand its use case, and it stands a pretty good chance of getting adopted by the mainstream in the years ahead. But what I like to think about is, where is the next crypto innovation coming from? I don't like to follow the herd. It's been my experience that if you're patient and willing to put in the time to do lots of homework and research, that you can potentially position yourself to be ahead of the pack. And as more people come to the same realizations and discovery as yourself, then just let the herd come to you. So to that end, from an adoption standpoint, in the same way that people are realizing Bitcoin's value proposition due to its supply scarcity, I'm noticing a steadily growing trend in cryptocurrency, particularly in the area of non-fungible tokens or digital tokenization of assets using blockchain tech. So probably one of the biggest markets with potential to be massively disrupted with crypto tech and blockchain is blockchain gaming. Now, gaming is already a $150 billion global market, and a large percentage of that is coming from mobile gaming. So gaming and blockchain, for me, are like a perfect match made in heaven. The technology is really advancing always to try to change the player's experience, and there's a number of different issues with the traditional gaming models that I think blockchain tech stands a good chance of potentially solving. And there's also other areas that stand to benefit from NFTs and digital tokenization, like virtual real estate, digital art, and even physical items in the real world. For example, Nike just patented a system for tokenizing its shoes on the Ethereum blockchain. And there's a lot of cool ways where Nike is going to apply this tech for its new Crypto Kicks shoes, as they're called, where you can actually breed different results through collaboration events that can then be cross-promoted for in-store sales. So on the gaming front, there's a couple of really promising crypto gaming projects. Decentraland, for one, is a project that I've followed for a long time. For years, they've been building a massive decentralized virtual reality platform powered by the Ethereum blockchain, where in the platform, users can purchase parcels of land, or lands as they're called, with the Mana crypto token. The landowners can buy or sell or trade lands and build on these properties to create really cool, unique experiences like shops, marketplaces, stores, and plazas all throughout the different districts in Decentraland. Also, as landowners create custom experiences for their citizens, you're going to be able to monetize your content with applications in the same way that you would in the physical world. So if you happen to have a virtual store, for example, you're going to be able to sell items there to patrons within the Decentraland metaverse. And there's a really cool marketplace on their website already where traders can come and buy and sell lands using the Mana tokens, a few of which have sold for well over 100,000 US dollars. Also, there's other markets to trade NFTs like Non-Fungible.com, which currently has the largest database of markets for crypto collectibles like CryptoKitties and other NFTs, assets, things from Decentraland, a whole host of different kinds of assets. And you can see these markets and the volume that's being traded there, it's getting pretty big. Just last week, Decentraland was trading upwards of $234,000 US, so this space is really getting pretty interesting and exciting right now. Now, Decentraland just made a big announcement with going live and opening up its metaverse to the general public. They did announce a celebration of the public launch with a giant 4-day in-world treasure hunt where users can explore their first metropolis, Genesis City, to find all kinds of collectible NFTs and even land parcels from a host of crypto partners. The total prize pool, I believe, was something in the realm of like $100,000, which is a lot of money to put into a big launch like this to try to get a lot of people to come and join in. The launch did open up with a little bit of criticism, and I did log in and play a bit myself in the system. I kind of found it to be candid, I found it to be a little laggy, a little bit quiet in there. There wasn't a lot of people when I happened to go in there, so it's probably going to take a little bit of time before this gets the kind of popularity that ultimately it's hoping to get. Even with also decent bandwidth, which I have, and the latest generation MacBook Pro, it had my internal fans running at like full blast, and it took quite a long time to actually load up the system, so that the world and the experience was ready for me to start running around in there. So it's an evolving technology. It's going to take a little bit of time, but ultimately, with time and with more people, that's really where the fun's going to be, and interacting with a huge virtual world of other people. So if you want more details and coverage of the launch and Decentraland in general, there's a guy named Manny on YouTube. His channel is DCL Blogger, who devotes pretty much his entire channel to Decentraland. He's a real expert when it comes to trading actual NFTs and analysis of the NFT sub-markets and the dynamics therein, so I've learned quite a bit from him. I will say that while Decentraland isn't quite Ready Player One level of complexity, and at this stage it can't really be compared to high-end PC games, you do have to understand that the tech is really quite impressive, and the feat that Decentraland has accomplished when you factor in that this is a giant decentralized metaverse with interlinked assets running on the blockchain. It's important to remember also that technology in general is advancing much more rapidly as each year goes on, and if this is sort of metaverse 1.0 level of quality, it's not going to take too many more years before the hardware and the software technology advancements exponentially improve the quality of models, the animation, the lighting, the rendering, overall greatly enhancing the player experience. And you can imagine also in a few years how potentially immersive this whole thing is ultimately going to be. So I think it's very early, but really promising, and I'm definitely going to be watching Decentraland very closely. I'm particularly keen to see how long it takes for traditional real estate investing strategies, like renting a parcel of virtual land to generate passive income, eventually takes place inside of a digital world like Decentraland. In this video, however, I'm going to be focusing more on another project called Enjin that I believe is shaping up to be the leader in blockchain gaming. Enjin's been around for a really long time, almost as long as Bitcoin. They're one of the most, if not the most, innovative of all the gaming projects, delivering an extremely consistent roadmap, which I'm going to cover here, and they're really growing out their ecosystem very steadily, especially during the last couple of years, where they really picked up a lot of momentum in this space. Enjin, in my opinion, is also doing something really unique in that they are really disrupting this existing relationship between game developers and game players with regard to ownership. So they really are standing to disrupt that whole equation and create a different kind of an expectation that's there. And I think that this is a project that someday soon people are going to start to realize is a pretty big deal, due in no small part to the fact that gaming is such a large multi-billion-dollar global market. And I think they're going to really stand to tap into that pretty well here. So we're going to start right at the beginning for anyone who is new to the Enjin community, or as the Enjin CEO calls you, the Enjin Army. So let's dive right in. Enjin was founded in 2009. So with a 10-year history, which is pretty rare in crypto, they've had quite a bit of time to develop and mature their platform technology and build a large community within their ecosystem. The main company's headquarters are in Singapore, but most of their employees operate remotely from all over the world. When Enjin first got started, they had about 10 employees, and now they have somewhere around 40. The team is run by CEO Maxim Blagov and CTO Wiktek Radomski, who actually authored the totally new and efficient ERC 1155 open source Ethereum token standard that serves as a major pillar in the utility of the Enjin ecosystem for NFTs. We're going to talk more about the token standard in a bit. Also, Enjin recently brought on Caleb Applegate to assume the role of CEO. And Caleb happens to be the co-owner of Mineplex, one of the world's largest Minecraft gaming servers, and an official Minecraft partner. So these guys make up the core leadership of Enjin, and I'd have to say that based on what they've accomplished toward their roadmap over the recent years, despite there being a number of delays along the way, that they're doing a pretty impressive job overall with growing the company and putting it on an adoption trajectory with their platform. So what is the use case of Enjin, and what problems are they trying to actually solve? So Wiktek Radomski stated in an interview last year on iBlock TV that they saw a real value with virtual economies in games like Minecraft, that they wanted to build this platform to help players who were building all these cool guilds and clans to help them monetize their user experience for the virtual assets and items that they were already trying to trade. So they created a plugin for Minecraft and a virtual shop system on their platform and saw a real virtual economy start to take off with that. Now that was a while back, but they're still working on this project, which they happen to call EnjinCraft. And recently, they reached out to their game community on Twitter that they were hosting an open stress test to try to actually break their Enjin craft, which is a good sign that maybe they're getting ready to, who knows, maybe to release something. And they haven't said anything on Twitter or any Telegram pages about this since, so who knows, but I can't help but wonder if something is still going on there, which could be an interesting development to look forward to. Now, Enjin realized a long time ago that there was a massive opportunity to use blockchain to make an even better, richer experience for gamers and developers, essentially changing their relationship to one another. Wojtek had already been a blockchain enthusiast before their ICO, and when the power of Ethereum and smart contracts became more evident, more mature, he and the others at Enjin realized that those were essentially the building blocks that they needed to build the future tools to actualize their vision of creating a multiverse of interconnected gaming worlds, allowing cross-utilization of digital assets, as well as facilitating digital asset ownership through tokenization on the blockchain via NFTs. So, a quick definition of fungible and non-fungible tokens is to think of these a little bit like dollars and airline tickets. So, US dollars are fungible because you can exchange one US dollar for any other US dollar bill. They're in essence the same thing. However, you cannot exchange one airline ticket for any other airline ticket because these tickets are not exchangeable with each other. They represent totally different things like different airlines, different seats on the airlines, different times of the flight. So this concept of tokenizing digital assets is one that cannot be understated. This is going to be revolutionary to imbue these kinds of attributes into digital assets, and it's going to really enhance the player, gamer, developer experience. A major problem that Enjin aims to solve with this is that the player's assets and ownership rights can be vaporized for many different unfortunate reasons. For example, if you're banned from a game, no matter if it's your fault or some misunderstanding or something caused by an external hack, your investment can be lost. Also, the investment can be lost if your interest just simply wanes and you decide to move on. As a dad and a parent of kids, I can relate to this. I've funded much of my kids' gaming experiences over the past decade to the tune of hundreds of dollars, if not more, of in-game item and asset purchases for them that sadly have been lost over the years for various reasons. And interestingly, my 15-year-old is now rekindled an interest in Minecraft and he's playing it again. But of course, the game assets and the worlds and the items that he had way back then are gone forever because there was no way to tokenize those assets back then when he was 7. The other problem is that today, gaming assets can only be utilized in each game that are being developed or purchased. So blockchain will make it possible to cross-utilize gaming assets, which is a concept that's really quite foreign to gamers and especially to developers today. And the benefit monetarily is really biased towards the game developers because there's just so much investment the individual game players or their parents have made to enhance the player's experience. I couldn't believe it when my son asked me if he could have money for an emoji dance move when he was playing Fortnite in his Fortnite phase. And Epic Games, who makes Fortnite, made billions on this one game alone. And the game is actually free to play, so all the money is coming from the in-game purchases to enhance those gamer experiences. So changing this model has tremendous implications to the current business model of game developers. However, as new technology evolves and players continue to invest thousands of hours in these games, I firmly believe that the first blockchain games, as they begin to take serious foothold, that we're going to witness an experiential revolution where gamers are going to expect to own their game items, whether it's a game character, a vehicle, armor, sword, treasure, skins, dance moves, or any asset that you can imagine. And Enjin's platform is going to let you take these assets across different games, and you will be able to buy, sell, trade in a marketplace that Enjin has already created. And then you're going to see entirely new lucrative business models that benefit both developers and players. So if Enjin, with its platform, is able to make good on its use case and the game developers make compelling games that players want to play, then there's a reasonable expectation that gamers are going to really prefer this model where they have digital ownership rights over their assets. And they're going to love the concept of using these assets in different ways across multiple interconnected virtual worlds that are far more rich and have entirely new experiences than traditional games of today. Now let's talk for a second about the ERC 1155 token standard as compared to the a predecessor, the ERC 721 standard. So the 721 standard that came before the 1155 standard is useful, but it's limited and it's inefficient. Taking CryptoKitties as an example, which was made with that standard, you have sort of each CryptoKitty is unique, but you can only have one type of CryptoKitty in each contract. Also, they're terribly inefficient and very expensive to use due to the gas fees, the fees that are paid to Ethereum miners for completing transactions. So when the CryptoKitties craze happened back in December of 2017, it totally choked the Ethereum blockchain and shined a huge light on Ethereum's scaling problem, which remains a big issue today, although there is a lot of work going on to try to fix this, including a solution that Enjin intends to provide. More on that later. So Enjin realized that games needed a much more powerful, much more efficient NFT token standard that allowed for both fungible and non-fungible characteristics, and where you don't need to deploy a new smart contract every time you want to mint one new token. So the ERC 1155 standard was created and adopted officially into the Ethereum standards that went live on August of 2018, catching the attention of Andreas Antonopoulos himself, who commented when this came out on Twitter in a tweet that this development was very interesting. With the standard, you can create an infinite number of fungible and non-fungible tokens in just one smart contract. You only have to define the data, set the parameters, and you can mint away, making the whole process a lot more simple and a lot more efficient. Also, you can perform bulk operations on many tokens in a simple one-on-one transaction, like trade 5 pieces of armor for 1 stack of gold. And the standard also allows you to set unique parameters for NFTs like crafting or bundling and enchanting items that change the powers or the characteristics depending on a particular event that can be triggered in the smart contract. Finally, this standard, while extremely powerful for gaming, has great potential for other industries as well, like esports, and we'll talk about another example of that in a little bit. So, how does Enjin Coin get its revenue to maintain itself as a going concern? In 2017, Enjin launched its ICO, or initial coin offering, with 1 billion ERC20 Ethereum tokens that were created at the time of launch under the ENJ token trading symbol. Enjin was very transparent about the allocation of the ICO funds, having raised anywhere from 19 to 23 million US dollars, depending on which source you read, and it was very clearly very well funded from this ICO. Of all the tokens that were issued, they sold 40% or 400 million in the actual ICO as tokens to the community to raise funds, and another 400 million were then later sold in a private sale. Of the remaining 20%, 100 million was reserved for the team for backing NFTs to fund technical development and help the game devs to get started, and the final 100 million was allocated to the team founders and advisors. All of this information can be found out on the internet. So in an interview from about a year ago, Witek mentioned that not only do they have quite a bit of runway still with the funds remaining, but they are forming other revenue streams actively from enterprise investment, subscription models, and B2B opportunities. So recently, Enjin also struck an investment with a notable private investment firm called Blockchain Ventures. And Blockchain Ventures did say in its investment in Enjin that it makes it the first equity investor in the gaming tech firm. So the amount of the investment wasn't disclosed, but this is a pretty impressive deal and represents that they acknowledge a lot of the value and the potential that they see with Enjin. So the Enjin network is a roadmap that launched back in 2009, which is essentially a big platform consisting of a mobile wallet, one of the easiest and simplest that I've ever used, a decentralized exchange right inside the wallet, an NFT marketplace that can be accessed right from inside the wallet, the Enjin block explorer called EnjinX, which makes it really fun and easy to surf all kinds of assets and transactions going on with the Enjin network, and of course the Enjin Coin cryptocurrency. So the Enjin platform really is impressive. They have multiple working products that have already been released and updated. They have a really cool Kickstarter-esque crowdfunding model that allows game developers to pre-mint MFTs or multiverse founders tokens that may represent very exclusive, very rare items with special powers or other cool characteristics and offer them in pre-sales to help fund game development. They also developed an SDK, which is live on the Unity Asset Store. The SDK is a software developer kit API that's very modular and a set of tools that allow nearly 5 million growing Unity developers to harness the power of the blockchain and create and integrate ERC 1155 assets into their games and manage advanced gameplay mechanics through the transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. The Enjin wallet has a number of unique features that really help it to stand out. One of the most important features of any crypto wallet is security, of course, and the Enjin team took it really seriously as they developed one of the most secure mobile wallets out there. They worked with a third-party organization, ORU, that specializes in cybersecurity, who audited the Enjin wallet as they were developing this. And the results can be found in a detailed public report. I'll post the link down below. Here's a quote. Our finding is that the overall security posture of the wallet application and the backend API is solid for the required risk profile, and that the software is developed according to current security best practices, which are required for a product that warrants a high level of security. We found no issues that could be used to compromise the wallet or the cryptographic keys stored in the system in the scope of our penetration test. So the wallet features dual encryption. There's actually 2 NSA-grade cryptographic layers that shield the key store and your confidential data. There are custom ARM instructions that ensure that the data is instantly deleted from your phone's memory, and the keyboard is like this Knox-grade security thing that they built from scratch and has features that protect against keylogging and data sniffing. Now, the 12-word recovery phrase is very simple and it's very typical with wallets, and all the hardware wallets have these days. You just have to remember not to lose them or let anyone else have access to them. So, the saying, not your keys, not your coins, and the Enjin wallet's really no different here. But it does make it very easy to kind of control all of your assets and have really high grade of protection as long as, you remember to back up your 12 words. I personally think that it's best to keep your long-term crypto holdings in multiple locations, so it's good to have things like a Ledger Nano X or a Nano S, but the Enjin wallet seems to me to be the next closest thing to a hardware wallet. If I were to throw my phone in the ocean right now, as long as I have my 12-word phrase backed up, I can very easily restore the wallet and its contents, and I've proven this not by throwing my phone in the ocean, but as my older kids also have Enjin wallets on their phones. Once their phones were upgraded, we just re-downloaded the wallet from the App Store, restored their balances with their passphrases, and they were all set. It was just as if nothing had ever happened. So the built-in wallet exchange lets you trade using Kyber, Bancor, Changelly, or CoinSwitch very seamlessly between a large list of different types of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Binance Coin, TrueUSD, which is pegged to the US dollar, and I think all Binance tokens as well. And I've traded actively in the wallet, and I have to say it works really, really well. It's very seamless, it's incredibly easy to use. You just select what you want to buy or sell, which exchange you want to use, and hit submit, and it broadcasts your trade request back to the DEX and magically handles your trade in the background. Usually it gives you a confirmation of your trade within a few minutes, but depending on liquidity, market conditions, and etc., it can take quite a bit longer. I've heard of a few folks in the Telegram chats wondering why some of their transactions were taking many, many hours. It really depends on a lot of things: the size of your trade, the amount of volume for the asset that you're trading, etc. So I would say it's fantastic from trading from a pure ease of use standpoint, but what I don't like is the lack of transparency that a more seasoned trader like myself might like to have at times for placing a more complex order. I'd love to see how much liquidity is available and to be able to place orders like stop or limit orders. Because otherwise, if you're placing a significantly large order on a DEX in a very thin market, you could potentially wipe out the order book completely and incur very large slippage, which could be very costly. So while I absolutely love the built-in DEX for lots of reasons, including privacy, I would say in its current form, it's best used for smaller trades, and I would send your coins or tokens to larger exchanges to have more control over your orders, and then send your results back to your wallet for safekeeping. So let's talk about the Enjin marketplace. The marketplace is an absolutely huge pillar for the success of the overall ecosystem because you need an easy way for people to buy, sell, and trade, as well as to see stats on non-fungible tokens. And Enjin already has all this in place. They released it a couple of months ago, and they provided a couple of updates already. So it's all there right now. You can access it very easily right inside the mobile wallet. I haven't done any trading with NFTs myself. I've only received a couple of NFTs from various promotions from Enjin, and they seem to get scooped up very quickly on Telegram, but markets for trading NFTs is really starting to boom right now. I mean, a whole concept of NFT trading is a topic outside the scope of this video, and I'll probably cover more on this in a future video. But there are other markets for trading NFTs like Non-Fungible.com, on OpenSea, and I do plan to cover this a little bit more in the future. But people have spent some serious money backing very expensive items. Take, for example, the Enjin monolith. It's worth almost $120,000 at the time of this video, and I think it's probably the most expensive Enjin-backed item at the moment, backed with over 1.1 million Enjin coin. You can only imagine what this thing is going to be worth if Enjin value continues to rise. And the value of NFTs can be worth much more than just the Enjin backing itself, because as the interest grows, based on how rare and scarce the asset is, it can have kind of more of a collectible value on top of the Enjin value that's imbued and backed within the token. Just a quick look at some of the most expensive NFTs that have ever been bought, sold, or traded. This is just a variety of different items, memes, collectibles, games that have sold and traded for dollar values here ranging from $3,700 in this case to $5,000 to $8,000 for this sci-fi collectible item, to this Axie Infinity character selling for 10,000 US. And then of course we have the famous CryptoKitty that sold for 600 Ethereum or 170,000. And it seems really crazy, but to me it's not that crazy when you start to think about the idea, especially in virtual world and virtual land ownership like in Decentraland. This transaction here proves that someone sold a parcel or a collection of parcels for 215,000 US dollars, over 2 million mana, 2.7 million mana. And it's really governed largely by what you think the popularity of different places in the world are going to be. As you look at the map of Decentraland, you can see in purple here these areas are pretty remote, but as you get closer to areas within Genesis City where a lot of the activity is going to be, people are going to be building all kinds of really exciting experiences in there where entire virtual economies can take place. And you can be playing games in there, you can sell art in there, you can have all different kinds of experiences that are going on in there. People are already building out games and starting to monetize the games as people come into play. I just read an article last week, I'm going to probably review a little bit later, of someone that they're making quite a bit of money, like to the tune of thousands of dollars a week, like close to 10 grand a week on in-game activities that are taking place as people are coming into these virtual worlds. So the land, people are starting to see that this land is going to become incredibly valuable. And you think about the entire Decentraland economy right now, it's being valued here at something like 20 million at present. This is only going to keep growing and growing as these worlds blow up, as people create new ideas that we haven't even thought of before in terms of how to monetize the content and the activities and the ideas that are happening inside of these virtual worlds. So it's really, I find this very exciting and very fascinating as a development to keep watching. But anyway, I just wanted to make a quick diversion on this just before jumping back into Enjin and Enjin Beam specifically. Enjin Beam is a QR scanning code function that exists inside the wallet that was intended to help really lower the barrier of adoption to NFTs. So it's really simple to use, and it's great for game marketing and for developers, and it's fun for the community to use this tool to receive NFTs in the form of loot drops. So basically it involves using a QR code to receive blockchain assets immediately into your wallet. And it allows developers to send to a single person, or you can send many items to many people. So it's really complex and allows for a lot of great functionality for doing different types of marketing or promotional campaigns. You can place these NFTs basically anywhere. You can place them in YouTube videos, you can place them in Telegram chats, other social media outlets, TVs, billboards, packaging, basically any place that you can think of where you can get users' eyeballs, you can place a QR code for people to scan. Now I'll place the link down below from Enjin on how to create these QR codes for developers, but you basically craft your NFTs on the Enjin Mint shop, you contact Enjin via support to get the QR code, you advertise wherever you like, and then away you go. The wallet uses the camera to scan the QR code, which by the way can be any type of QR code, not even just an Enjin asset. And then this also makes it one of the easiest, ways that you can send and receive cryptocurrencies to and from exchanges or different wallets that actually use QR codes. Nginx is the blockchain explorer that they created for their ecosystem on the Ethereum blockchain. And you can use Nginx for all kinds of cool searches here. It's really easy to explore and find all kinds of cool information. You can look at assets, you can look at transactions, you can look at IDs, and you can see pictures that are associated with different assets and see which game has what types of items. The metadata is also really useful to search on for cool things like you can place a search for something like all monsters and it'll show you pictures of all that, or other token types like, what are all the vehicles, or what are all of the weapons for a particular game. And you can see cool stats like, what are their attack power associated with a character and things like that. So it's a really cool, very easy to use, easy to search type of block explorer compared to any other block explorer that I've ever tried before. Finally, let's discuss the Enjin Coin ERC20 token that's used as both a currency and as a utility token for backing NFTs. The currency is traded on multiple exchanges like Binance, Upbit, Bilexi, LA Token, and others, as well as right inside the wallet, as I mentioned before. We know that the NFTs can be backed with Enjin Coin to infuse them with value. This is one of the greatest things about this system, that you can return this value later if you one day choose to melt the asset down for the engine contained within. But as the community likes to say, don't melt assets. Melt is murder. So one of the most amazing tokenomics concepts here with the Enjin cryptocurrency is that it is deflationary by nature. In other words, over time, as NFTs are crafted and backed with Enjin, you're thereby locking up the overall supply. This is incredibly unique at this time. I don't think there's anything else out there that's quite like it in this point. So right now, I believe there are almost 50 million total assets that are backed with a combined total of 11 million Enjin Coin, which is equal to something like $1.5 million US at this time. And these figures are just going to get bigger and bigger as the platform keeps getting adopted more and more, and people keep locking up more and more Enjin Coin into NFT types of assets, especially as bigger partnerships and corporations are coming onto the platform. So let's talk about the exciting mainnet launch that was just recently announced. When Enjin first launched its network, it started on a test network, the Kovan Ethereum test network, which is a way for developers to begin testing their software developer kit and mint assets with a test version of the coin to sort of get a feel for how this was going to actually work. Enjin handheld several game developers to allow them to develop on the actual Ethereum blockchain, but it wasn't really ready yet for public to use. They needed to work with a small number of projects to kind of help them to find bugs, work out the kinks. And right now, I think there's about 50 games or so that are on the platform that Enjin's been sort of hand-holding and working very closely, collaborating together to see what they can come up with and get a feel for how these NFT assets are going to work and feel in a variety of different interconnected games. But now, they've gone live on the Ethereum blockchain with their minting platform. So what does this mean? It means that anyone, including the 7,000 plus users that are already tinkering on testnet, are going to be able to create next generation blockchain assets backed with real Enjin Coin and integrate them into any type of software, allowing Enjin to be used to its full potential as a minting resource. From a tokenomics standpoint, there's some really well thought out and intriguing options in how you can craft these NFT assets with completely different supply models. For example, you can craft with a collapsing supply. So if the item or items are destroyed, the remaining assets are going to be more scarce, which should elevate their value over time. You can also craft a set of items and say only 10 of this rare spaceship will ever exist. Or every year, you can set the parameters to expand the supply. So you can say every year, allow the contract to grow the assets by 10% to let the game grow organically. You can basically create an infinite number of tokens as far as I'm aware. I don't believe there's a limit that I'm aware of when crafting. You can infuse the assets with the actual Enjin tokens as I described, which means now the asset has a tangible material value backed by actual Enjin Coin. And as Wittek had described in one of his interviews, you can kind of think of the asset like a sword as having raw materials like iron or steel inside of it. As I said before, anyone who owns these items can melt the asset down for its base Enjin value inside the asset. The feature is really valuable because what if the asset becomes no longer sellable for some reason? If the game goes defunct or whatever, you can recover a portion of its value to be used for something else. This concept is really incredible. It's good not only for the purchaser of the asset, but it's also good for the developer because as devs are making a game, if for some reason the item isn't popular, they can actually get some of their resources back. And as I just mentioned, it's actually really good for investors of Enjin coin at the currency because of the deflationary components I already mentioned. As time goes on and more of the Enjin supply is ultimately going to be locked up in digital NFTs. So let's talk about Affinity. This is going to be a really big deal, and it's something that's been on the horizon of the Enjin roadmap for a while now. The idea of Affinity basically is to help address the scaling problem on the Ethereum blockchain as it relates to mass adoption of the Enjin platform, especially if big massive game companies get on board and start using this technology. Right now, the Ethereum network by its very nature is a bit slow and it's expensive, requiring gas fees to pay the miners to send and receive assets and handle transactions. This is a big barrier to adoption because new users of blockchain games may not have cryptocurrency and they may not have fiat or other on-ramps to acquire Ethereum inside the game. So if Affinity as a goal is going to attempt to solve this by allowing the acquisition of cryptocurrency inside the game, and it will enable these same developers to perform nearly infinite volumes of near instant transactions at next to no cost. So this should be pretty huge when this comes online because it's such an important piece of the adoption puzzle that will really pave the way for mass adoption and make it so that the entire Enjin multiverse is as efficient as it can possibly be. In the words of CEO Maxim Blagov, Affinity is going to be the key to unlocking the universe. And it really makes sense with all of the technology and the platform kind of in place now. They've got the wallet, they've got the marketplace, they've got the backing of the NFTs. Getting the network to be as efficient as possible seems like one of the last big pieces of the puzzle for adoption to truly take place. As far as partnerships go, Unity is one of the biggest partners that Enjin announced back in March of 2018. I already mentioned that they have already released their blockchain SDK for Unity, which went live about a year later. And this is one of the backbones of the entire Enjin network because it's going to allow thousands of developers, including big AAA developers, to create games with Unity, which is one of the largest, well-known real-time development platforms in the gaming industry. Now, Samsung. There was a big confusion over whether or not there was a partnership with Samsung back in early 2019 when a few pictures had surfaced of Samsung's phone with the Enjin logo. The price temporarily spiked something crazy like 700% because the implication was that Enjin's tech and wallet and cryptocurrency were suddenly going to be in the hands of millions of Samsung Galaxy phone owners. Enjin later confirmed that they do in fact have a partnership with Samsung, but Enjin has not been able to speak about the details yet, most likely due to the fact that they are still under an NDA. Just recently, Samsung held a massive live press unveiling of their newest flagship phone, but unfortunately there was no mention of Enjin or crypto blockchain integration. So in my opinion, the most likely conclusion is that while they're still developing this tech and while Enjin and they are working behind the scenes, they're just not ready to talk about it publicly yet, so we're probably going to just have to wait and see if there's something actually more there. Also, Enjin partnered up with PC Gamer, the #1 PC gaming magazine, to spread awareness of blockchain and gaming to millions of gamers. And Enjin was a really prominent video sponsor at this convention and a show partner at that weekender event, with the Enjin logo being really prominently displayed to thousands at that convention and millions post-event on the internet. So Microsoft has been one of the bigger partnerships announced recently for sure. The basic idea is about rewarding good deeds in the Microsoft Azure development community with cool little digital collectibles, or badgers, as they're called. So it is a small step for Microsoft, but it's a relatively big deal that a company as massive as Microsoft is looking into Enjin and its technology, and they're probably trying to use this as a bit of an experiment to understand it better. The next thing I'd personally like to see, as I'm sure lots of others would too, is to have some kind of bigger partnership that extends Enjin onto the Xbox platform. There's already been plenty of others speculating that since Samsung already has a partnership with Microsoft, and if there's something else going on between Enjin and Samsung, that maybe there could be some type of a magical triad of some type of collaborative integration to go happen in the future. We're just going to have to wait and see on that one. At the beginning of this month, Enjin and Chili's came together in a partnership. So reading from their announcement, Chili's, world leaders in blockchain-based fan engagement, today announced a collaboration with leading blockchain ecosystem developer Enjin to create branded digital collectibles for the sports entertainment industry, including creating non-fungible token NFTs for Socios.com full roster, which already includes major football clubs Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, Atletico de Madrid, Galatasaray, AS Roma, West Ham, Independiente, and back-to-back Dota 2 esports champions OG. This is potentially huge as the world of esports is growing massively, up into the hundreds of millions of viewers according to recent statistics. The article further reads that Chiliz is a digital currency for sports and entertainment platforms. It fuels the world's first scalable tokenized voting platform, Socios.com, where fans can buy, trade, and execute voting rights in their sports teams. The work Enjin is doing and has already done is pretty vast, and I wanted to dedicate this first episode to covering its platform and history in some detail because it lays a good foundation for me to talk about other crypto projects in this space as a comparison, as well as the whole gaming sector in general, which I think stands to be radically disrupted with blockchain technology in the coming years. I know I'm not the only one who sees Enjin as working aggressively towards the goal of mass adoption of its platform, even beyond gaming. So I think I've covered the main highlights of Enjin and its current ecosystem to bring you guys up to speed with this project. There are competitors out there, but none have the history, the platform technology, or the sizable community, as well as a huge first mover advantage that Enjin currently enjoys in this space. But they will need to stay frosty if they want to maintain that advantage. There are a few puzzle pieces that are missing, like Efinity and a solution to the Ethereum scaling problem that must be tackled if Enjin is to fully succeed. With mainnet now live, a lot of people are waiting to see if Enjin gets potentially picked up by or partners up with one of the big AAA gaming studios from the likes of Google, Sony, Microsoft, Activision, Epic Games, etc. The big companies have to evolve with the times, and there are signs that some of them are starting to get interested in blockchain gaming. And even though they have massive financial and development resources, in my opinion, it's just going to make more sense for them to partner up with a well-developed platform like Enjin rather than totally build one from scratch. So the momentum is growing steadily and eventually going to pick up to a very steep trajectory where the big studios just can't afford to ignore it any longer. And the question is, who's going to be the first one to strike, and will it be with Enjin or Decentraland or some other crypto gaming project? Alright, well that's it for today guys. Hopefully you are all a little bit more informed with this video about what's going on in the world of Enjin and NFT crypto space, which is really beginning to light up right now. I personally feel we're at the cusp of a much bigger growing trend in digital NFTs and blockchain gaming, that we're going to see a lot more development and exciting things coming in the years ahead. Please let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think about Enjin, about Decentraland, about the future possibilities in the whole evolving NFT space? There are so many hot topics in the cryptosphere that I want to cover in future videos, so your feedback would be super appreciated and will really help guide me in terms of the content that I put out for you next. Also, where do you think the next adoption potential in crypto is going to come from? Is it DeFi? It's taken 10 years, but we could argue that mainstream is only finally waking up to Bitcoin's potential. As we know, Bitcoin's really just the first crypto app with potential to really big problems in global finance. But let's be real here. We want to keep on the pulse of what's the next killer app. And so if you want to see more content and coverage of crypto NFT tokens, blockchain gaming, even technical analysis of these unique kinds of cryptocurrency projects, then please help me have a solid kickoff for this channel by hitting the like, subscribe, bell thingies down below so you'll know exactly when I've uploaded my next video. And I truly appreciate you all so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.